Mike Cardano with Roto Experts in the Fantasy Sports Network, back with our market share report. Now, this is a segment where we review the previous week's on-field action, highlighting the wide receivers who earned the most targets, the running backs that received the most carries, and take a look at which players saw the most chances to score inside the red zone. You should pay special attention when you hear me say the words market share, because this is a metric that we use to identify which players are getting the highest percentage of their team's play calling. And since we know that opportunity breeds success, well, you're going to see just how valuable this information can be in your decision-making process as you compose your tournament rosters. Now, DeAndre Hopkins led all wide receivers last week with 47.8 DraftKings points, but just missed our leaderboard as he finished the day with 9 targets. The next top scorers at the wide receiver position were the 2 target leaders, Calvin Johnson and Keenan Allen. They were the only 2 players with 15 or more targets on the week. Johnson turned his 16 targets into 40.6 points, while Allen turned his 15 targets into 38.1. Cheap options who saw double-digit targets were very beneficial in Week 13. Harry Douglas, Devontae Adams, Jordan Reed, and Eddie Royal all cost $3,300 or less and turned their 10-plus targets into an average of 22.78 points on DraftKings, with all 4 players scoring at least 20. Demaryius Thomas continues to benefit from the absence of Julius Thomas as he led all Week 13 players with 38.24% market share of targets, his highest of the season. Le'Veon Bell was the only running back to make the target leaderboard. He was the highest scorer at running back, with his 11 targets contributing heavily to his 42.4 points. Of the 26 players that received at least 10 targets, 25 of them scored in the double digits. The only player who failed to exceed single-digit points was Michael Floyd. Now, due to inconsistent volume, production, and now quarterback, Floyd is now a tournament option only, regardless of his price and matchup. In total, 26 players saw at least 10 targets this week, with an average score of 21.26 DraftKings points. Once again, if you were able to correctly identify players receiving double-digit targets, you had a great chance at recouping value on their price tag. Le'Veon Bell was the top scorer at the running back position. With LeGarrette Blount out of the fold, Bell has received market shares of 100% and 91.3% the past 2 weeks. CJ Anderson led all players with 32 carries and turned that opportunity into 29.5 DraftKings points, second only to Bell. He's a top 5 running back week in and week out, with Ball and Hillman sidelined. Now, even with Pierre Thomas back, Mark Ingram dominated the carries for the Saints, earning a market share of 88.46%. He'll be a workhorse back as long as the game script is favorable, and it projects to be this upcoming week against Carolina. And with Fred Jackson healthier, the Bills moved away from their timeshare a little bit and gave Jackson 70% of the team's carries. There was a big cutoff in production at the 20 carry mark this last week. 7 running backs under 20 carries on the leaderboard averaged just 12.01 DraftKings points, while the 11 running backs at 20 or more carries averaged 22.17 points. In particular, the raw carry totals for teammates Chris Ivory and Chris Johnson were misleading. Their market shares of 34.04% each are more indicative of their value moving forward. No other running backs made the carry leaderboard with a market share south of 55%. In total, 18 running backs saw at least 15 carries in Week 13, averaging 18.22 DraftKings points. This continues the trend of timeshare running backs in the NFL and places a bigger premium on predicting the opportunities. The final leaderboard we're going to show you this week is one that we use to evaluate which players are seeing the most opportunities in the red zone. For the newbies here in Week 14, a red zone opportunity is simply defined as a carry or a target on a play that starts inside the opponent's 20-yard line. Now, historically, these opportunities are more valuable the closer you get to the goal line, as touchdown rates increase with each yard closer to the opponent's end zone. Half of the 16 players who saw 4 red zone opportunities scored a red zone touchdown in Week 13, with 3 players scoring twice inside the red zone. Justin Forsett led all players with 11 red zone opportunities, and his value is certainly bolstered by being used more in the red zone recently. After receiving an okay 23 red zone opportunities over the season's first 10 weeks, Forsett has 16 such opportunities in the past 2 weeks. Eddie Lacy is getting back to the workhorse role that made him so valuable last year. In 2 consecutive weeks, he's had a market share of carries of 80% or more, and a market share of red zone opportunities of 40% or more. He didn't have a combination of opportunities like that even once over his first 10 games. Demaryius Thomas led all receivers in red zone opportunities with 6, and now has set season highs in that regard 2 consecutive weeks with Julius Thomas out. 16 players in total saw at least 4 red zone opportunities and on average scored 19.94 DraftKings points. For more in-depth analysis on market share leaders for the rest of the season, head on over to rotoexperts.com and sign up for the Daily Fantasy Football Package. Our experts, Drew Dinkmeyer and Mike Leone, get you ready each week with strategy articles, site-specific cheat sheets, and recommendations that highlight the top value plays each week and send you updated injury information right to your inbox with our lineup alerts feature. Become a member of the Daily Fantasy Rundown team at rotoexperts.com by signing up for the Daily Fantasy Football Package. For Roto Experts and the Fantasy Sports Network, I'm Mike Cardano.